Hey, welcome back to the Work with Soul YouTube channel or the Work with Soul blog if you are joining over on Substack. My name is Monica. I am the founder and creator of Monica Rose Coaching, and I am your new spiritual work bestie. Here at the Work with Soul space, we offer spiritual solutions to toxic work culture. And one of our main goals is to help you create a nourishing professional life and a true work life balance through totally dismantling toxic work culture in your own life. Today, we are going to talk about how COVID and the pandemic has not only changed the labor market, but also how people perceive and approach work. So let's get into it. So let's take a trip down memory lane and reminisce about our most beloved, our most favorite event to go down in world history, COVID lockdowns and the pandemic. Just kidding. It was a horrible time, and I hope we never have to live through anything like that ever again. But we are going to talk about it because it is a very interesting phenomenon, and it is totally changing the landscape and the fabric of our work culture. As a quick disclaimer, I'm in the United States, so everything, all of the numbers and examples I'm going to share are from here in the US. So, as you may have experienced personally, but you at least fully vividly remember, around mid March of 2020, the world just kind of went to shit. Shit really hit the fan and the world shut down. Here in the United States, according to the Federal Reserve Board, and I will link this source in the description, around 700,000 establishments closed in the second quarter of 2020. Now, this includes temporary closures and reopenings. But in the second quarter, 700,000 around there establishments closed. And the unemployment rate surged to 13%, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which will also be in the description of this video. So what does that mean? It means essentially, for the purpose of this conversation, that millions and millions of people all of a sudden, just like that, were out of work. They had all of this extra time on their hands to not really do a whole lot because we were totally banned from even going outside in many places. But for better or for worse, all these people, myself included, had all of this extra time on their hands to spend with their families. Again, couldn't do much more than that, but spend with their families, catch up on sleep, and it really forced people to get creative about what they were doing with their time. Because thanks to toxic work culture here in the US, we are not accustomed to having all of that time off because overworking is glorified and in many ways rewarded. And it was kind of a mind fuck, right? Because on one hand, it was like, wow, I have all this extra time to spend with my kids, my family, to spend time at home. People were doing home renovation projects and really being able to do more things that they enjoyed at home. And then on the other hand, it was like, wow, the world is in fucking shambles. I'm now worried about how I'm going to pay my bills and take care of myself and my family and actually live. So it was a mixed bag, but in many ways it was very relieving for people because they were like, wow, I have all this extra time. I'm actually getting sleep. I'm actually getting to spend time with my family and my kids or do whatever, good stuff that they were doing at home. But it was still a very scary time, right? And so when things started opening back up and businesses started to reopen and people started to go back to work, a lot of businesses were implementing these extra benefits like more paid time off, more sick time, so that if someone got sick with COVID, they could actually stay home and recover and still get paid. Another benefit was a bump in pay. People were getting hazard pay or an extra dollar or two an hour in sectors like retail, food service, customer service. I, those were mostly the areas that were doing those extra benefits. And then when they no longer felt it was necessary, they took those benefits away. They were very temporary. They did not last long at all. And people were like, okay, so it was really easy for my employer to give me an extra dollar an hour or actually pay me to be home sick to recover and not bring it to work. And now they're just taking it away. And people had so many epiphanies around how burnt out they really were, to the extent of which they were being taken advantage of, right? By their employers. They were how overworked they were, how underpaid they were, how burnt out they were, how exploited they were. And something started happening that is now called the Great Resignation, and people in mass were just quitting their jobs. They were just quitting their jobs. Now this is very nuanced, of course. This was a huge point of contention because a lot of people were taking advantage of the paycheck protection and the stimulus checks that we were getting. They were like, wow, I'm making more money on unemployment with these stimulus checks than I was making at my regular job. But that's just a side note. People were quitting their jobs for one reason or another. There's no real like consensus on why that is. There's many reasons that go into that, but people were quitting their jobs just in masses. And now the Great Resignation is known as the Great Reshuffle because people still are just shuffling in between jobs. They're getting new jobs, they're leaving their shitty jobs for less shitty jobs or jobs that are paying them more, that actually have health insurance or benefits or pay time off, right? And that, like I said in the beginning, we don't know yet the long-term impact that this is going to have on the labor market. And leave a comment on beneath this video or on the blog post on Substack if you have noticed any impacts on this or of this in your community or places that you've gone. We have seen massive labor shortages. I have seen it mostly in restaurants and retail, but really it's hitting every sector, every field to some extent, right? So that is definitely a very well documented impact of the pandemic is labor shortages. But I want to dig into that a little more because we have heard countless times already, people just don't want to work anymore. And that is just an instant no for me. That is not the full story. And so people who are leaving their jobs for whatever reason are being demonized because they're like, oh, well, you just don't want to work anymore. It's like, well, that is the case for some people, of course. There are some bad apples that spoil the bunch, but overall, generally, that's really not the full story. People don't want to work for shitty employers anymore. People want to make a living wage. We can't even really quantify what a living wage is at this point because at the time of this recording, May 2023, there's a lot of fuckery going on in with the economy. So people don't want to feel taken advantage of, undervalued, unappreciated at work anymore. And people are really demanding more. People are realizing and have been realizing really since they started going back to work back in 2020 that they have so much more power than they have ever thought. Employees have so much more power than we've ever known. And that is very intentional. That is very by design. Because when we know our power and when we know our value, our inherent worth and value, we ask for what we want. We ask for what we need and deserve, right? We speak up for ourselves. We advocate for ourselves. And that is a big part of what I do as a job and career coach is help people fully realize their inherent worth and value so that they can advocate for themselves at work, radically change their relationship with work, leave their shitty jobs, actually secure what they know they can secure in a job, which has countless benefits in life outside of work. So what else have we seen? Like, let's just keep going deeper and deeper into this, right? So people have realized and are still waking up to what is really important to them, right? Toxic work culture indoctrinates us from childhood, maybe even from infancy, honestly, with our how we relate to our parents and our caregivers and how we have to spend so much time with strangers because our parents and our guardians have to work most of the time. But toxic work culture tells us that we have to settle for whatever's given to us, whatever we can get in right now. That's what we have to settle for because we have to work no matter what it is, no matter how much we hate it, no matter how much it drains us. We have to do whatever we have to do to work, to live, to pay bills, right? Let's just take a second and let some of this sink in because this is a lot. We are really getting into some heavy, heavy programming with this. So people are realizing what is actually important to them. Yes, we have to work to live, but working isn't really what's important. It's what working enables us to do that's really important. Working allows us to make money so that we can enjoy life, ideally. Unfortunately, that's not the norm for most people, but that's what's really important. What we can do with our lives outside of work, with the money that we make to support ourselves in life, right? What's really important is our creativity, our mental, spiritual, emotional, physical health. That's really what's important, right? Our relationships are important. Work is not that important. It's necessary, but that doesn't mean that we have to settle for a job that doesn't appreciate us, that doesn't value what we bring to the table as an employee and as a human. People don't want to deal with that anymore, right? I sure as fuck don't want to deal with that, right? So people are realizing what's actually important to them. People are realizing how much power they really have to invite more of what nourishes them into their lives, especially when it comes to work. So there's that aspect of it. And then we have what's actually happening in the labor market, which partially explains why there are these mass labor shortages. People are transitioning to work from home in mass because working from home allows people to actually be home, right? And we hear stories in the media and on social media about people working from home so they don't actually have to work. But that's not really it. That's not it. Again, some bad apples spoil the bunch, but that's not really why people want to work from home. People want to work from home so they spend less money on gas. So they can actually eat good meals throughout the day at home, right? So they can not spend all this time in traffic away from their kids and families in their homes, right? This is a very nuanced topic. And all these bullshit narratives that we are spoon fed are not nuanced at all, right? They very much push a specific narrow narrative. So, those are two main things that I wanted to dive into. The real reason why we are seeing all of these labor market distortions and labor shortages and all of the stuff that's going on right now. It's actually a very spiritual phenomenon, which is another thing that I'm kind of debunking here in the work with soul space is spirituality is not plant medicine or traveling to Ibiza or meditating for hours a day or having crystals all over or all of that. Spirituality is actually how we relate to the energy of life that is moving through us on in any given moment, right? How we choose to rise above and integrate and embody all of the lessons that we are given, right? So, this is a very spiritual problem because our spirit is the essence of who we are as humans, right? And when we are disconnected from that, we get caught up in the program, we get caught up in the matrix, right? And so, when people realize their full potential and their power and actually harness that and they leverage it in real life, that's really when shit starts to change. And that's what the program doesn't want us to do because then the program falls apart, right? So, what happens when more and more people wake up to this and choose to dismantle toxic work culture in their life and choose to demand what they really desire and deserve, what happens to these structures and systems? I don't know, but I cannot wait to see it all burn the fuck down. So I hope you found this conversation insightful. If you resonated with any of it, stay tuned because this is the kind of thing that we are going to dive into in great depth here in this space. And you will learn how to infuse your work life with your soul. Hence, work with soul. And radically change your relationship with work, create a nourishing professional life, and create a true work-life balance. So if anything came up for you during this conversation, leave a comment beneath this video or a comment on the blog post if you're on Substack. I love you.